Hey Yagaho guys, we are a day late, but I assure you it is still week 7 of the GBA. We are past the halfway point, so how about that? Today we are playing someone we have never played before. It is Sam, the champion of the D-League Season 1, FooFoo, the guy who clicks buttons, the coach extraordinaire of the Mewcastle United, who has like the highest BST in the league, has a fantastic team, is a fantastic battler, is 1-5 at -15. Why is that? Well, my theory from last video was that we're playing a game called Pokemon where skill is not one of the primary things you need to be good at this game. So that's my thought. But anyway, looking at what he's got in store for us, we got the Crook, as I like to call it, Eelektross, Crobat, Pyroar, which just got picked up in free agency, and as soon as I saw him drop Kecleon for Pyroar, I knew it was coming this week. No, not probably. Definitely with specs. Definitely going to drop some specs Fire Blasts on some stuff, so we'll have to see what we can do about that. And there's not really a whole lot we can do about Mew, because that could be running anything. So, yeah. I am, however, quite pleased with what we don't see. We don't see Virizion, or Kyurem, or Chicken Kyurem, that is, or Suicune, or Dragonite, or Mega Banette. That's a lot of guys who have like powerful hitting slash setup-y attacks, and they can't do bad things to me if they are on the bench. So I am pretty alright with that. Although we do have stuff that, you know, can totally deal with them. Like, you know, we had some Prankster Will-O-Wisp that probably would deter Dragonite. Speaking of Prankster Will-O-Wisp, let's look at the teams. Oh, he's back. Sableye, the franchise, is back with the Ninja Arts of Dishonor. That's right. But don't worry, guys. We're not using the S word this week. We're using Confuse Ray, which is better because it's got 100% accuracy. So it's clearly the better move. Should be running that anyway. Sub Recover because, you know, Ninja Arts of Dishonor. But no foul play this week. Instead, we have Will-O-Wisp because of aforementioned, you know, just Dragonites and Virizions and other guys who would be nice to get a Prankster Wisp on, etc. So I thought about doing a Calm Mind, more like standard Sableye this week, but I couldn't find a single solitary move that I liked that generally cover his team, so wasn't really going to be doing that. And then I also saw that Nick is trying to usurp me and my crown of whatever with this sub-acupressure Drapion. So get in there, Sableye. We got to take our crown back. We have to bring the hatred back over to us. It's got to be done. Clefable is coming this week, as it will continue to come every week because it is Clefable and it is awesome. This week it is Unaware, and it is also especially defensive because it can kind of sort of take Fire Blast from a Specs Pyroar. Kind of. Unaware because DD Knight, Krookodile, Swords Dance Virizion, all that mess that I don't want to have to deal with. Can kind of sort of set up on Suicune if it was brought, because we're going to be charging our Moonblasts, and you'll get to see maybe some of that action going on. I, again, hate having only 8 PP on my recovery move, but I'll have to live with it. And our fourth move is a sneaky sneak surprise that will possibly remain a mystery, or maybe you'll see it. We'll have to wait and see. Mega Proto Man finally getting back on the team, outspeeding everything except Crobat, which, you know, can Brave Bird, which made me quite certain that Crobat was going to be coming out this week. But that means we have Bulk Up, so we can maybe actually live Brave Bird. And our 3 attacks are Drain Punch, Ice Punch for Dragonite and Crobat. And then I really thought about running X-Scissor to, you know, laugh in Colberberry Mew's face, but I didn't want to have only Ice Punch as my best thing to hit Mega Banette with. So, granted, you know, it's a Mega, so it's not going to take as much from knockoff, but it still kind of dies, so in the end, I just decided to keep a knockoff. Staraptor, CB, yeah, blow stuff up. It's, we got U-Turn and Quick Attack, and then of course the 2 recoil moves of choice, because there's a Ghost type and an Electric type, so it necessitates both. And yeah, I don't really need to say much more about it. Max speed to speed tie with Mew at worst. Jolly. And yeah, blow stuff up. Empoleon, though, bears some talking about. So Empoleon went through a couple of revisions this week. Would have been nice to have Assault Vest to, you know, soak up some Fire Blasts from a Pyroar, but I really needed Stealth Rock. Clefable didn't have the space to afford that for us this week. So once again, rocks get stuck on Empoleon, and I guess that's alright. Consequently, we decided to switch over to Shuka Berry, which possibly will allow us to live a Krookodile Earthquake and fire back with a possibly Torrent boosted Scald and pick up a surprise KO. That's the hope and the dream, maybe. It would have been nice to, you know, be able to run like Aqua Berry to reduce damage from Fire Blast, but A, that wouldn't work because it's not super effective. B, Pyroar has Unnerve, so neither of those would have been alright. As far as defensively, we are pretty well mixed between the two. Living Aspect's Fire Blast, still being able to take an Earthquake, so there's that. And yeah, just set up Ice Quake? No, I don't know how that entered my mind. Set up Stealth Rock, and then just the general 3 water move coverage, Scald, Ice Beam, and Grass Knot, of course, for Suicune. Speaking of Bludgeon Suicune, we also have a Scarf Magnezone coming back. You know, drop some powerful Thunderbolts on it, hopefully, and HP Ice for D-Knight, and maybe Volt Switch, and maybe hit Flash Cannons on Krookodile switch-ins. That's kind of the hope. Now, because of Magnezone not outspeeding a Crobat, whereas Magneton does, because of that and Aggron, I was also pretty sure he might want to tech on HP Ground to Crobat, so that's something we're going to have to be cognizant of as well. That is pretty much the team, so yeah, missing some of the super scary threats, but you know, it's still possibly enough to get the job done, so we'll see what we can do. We gotta suss out who's scarfed, etc., and yeah, let's get into it. Alright, I have lost like 5 narrations to Camtasia Desync. Let's try this again. We're leading off with not Staraptor, because as much as I'd like to nuke somebody, we need to determine who's going to be scarfed. Like this guy could potentially outspeed a Staraptor if he's scarfed. Would not like that one little bit. So instead, we are going to lead out with Magnet Man, and I was kind of actually expecting Krookodile to lead off, which could have also been scarfed. So yeah, but that's not what happened, and I'm just going to Volt Switch here, and if he wants to go into Krookodile, then he can do so, and I'll go into Clefable like I would have planned to anyway. We're going to Volt Switch instead, and also, I think because we're on Omega Ruby instead of X again, the camera didn't like it, and so the video is a little bit muddy and not quite as good looking as it has been in some of the past games, but oh well. Anyway, get that out of the way, and yeah, we're gonna go into Clefable anyway. So what's he want to go into on Clefable off a Volt Switch of his own? And it's gonna be the Klefki. So I'm pretty sure through the entire game, the thought of Klefki having Flash Cannon does not cross my mind, probably because he is a Klefki, and I am especially defensive Clefable. So yeah. What does cross my mind, if he did want to Flash Cannon, this would be a good play anyway, is to go into Magnezone, trap him as he sets up spikes, which would be awful, or you know, maybe dual screens or something, and bludgeon it with T-Bolts, but that's not going to happen either, because he's going to go right back into the Eel, and we have our lead matchup once again. So all that's exchanged is that Eel has like 15-20% on it, and Fable's got a little bit more than that, but Clefable also has lefties and has Moonlight, so I think I'm slightly in the lead as far as that goes. I'm a little bit more renewable than he is. Based on the Volt Switch damage and damage to Fable, I'm thinking max attack Assault Vest is going to be my guess. So here I decide, you know, this seems like a great turn for Krookodile to come in, so I'm going to Flash Cannon, and that's not what happens, and instead he Flamethrowers. I do get a crit, which isn't a lot of damage, but file it away for later, because that might affect something later. I knew I would love a Flamethrower, if that's what he went for, and that is indeed what he went for, so okay, fine, well enough. We'll go into Fable now, and see what we can have happen about it. So Fable comes in, takes a Flamethrower, and takes it pretty well. And taking about 70 points though, so I think I want to go ahead and get some hit points back, and that is what we're going to do. Get back up to full and check if he's got Acid Spray, which of course he does, because I believe that's the best Eelektross move versus Clefable anyway. So Don't want to take Giga Drain. Don't really want to take another Acid Spray. Both those would be pretty bad, so I could go into Empoleon to take Acid Spray. I could go into Magnezone to take Acid Spray. If it does want to Giga Drain to get some HP back off my, you know, now -2 special defense, then probably Zone would be better. And Zone is just generally more expendable anyway, based on the, you know, things that he brought versus the things that he benched. So we're gonna go into Zone here, and ideally he Acid Sprays, and we can, I don't know, get something going on. Certainly taking a long time to think about it here. Is I'm kind of throwing somebody under the bus maybe, and unfortunately he Volt Switches, and with Stab that is going to be able to pick up the KO there. I was kind of hoping 32 HP and Resistance would be able to, you know, bulk it out, but not going to be the case. Although at least I guess this does reverse the initiative with Volt Switch. He's going to have to drop somebody in first, and then we're going to be able to ideally drop in, you know, Staraptor and start nuking people, but depends on what he wants to drop in, and it's going to be this guy, which I definitely can't drop Staraptor in on. Couldn't have dropped Staraptor in on a Pyroar either, but whether it was this thing or Pyroar, our definite go-to is going to be Empoleon, so versus this guy who probably cannot do a whole heck of a lot to the Penguin. We're just going to set up a quick Stealth Rock and go ahead and get that up and make Pyroar take 25%. There's been a lot of Volt Switching going on, so I want to, you know, start to kind of curtail that. So rocks are up, good stuff, good stuff. Gonna be a free Volt Switch for him here, and there's not really a whole heck of a lot I can do about it. We're just gonna go straight into Fable, and that seems to be a generally good thing to have out. Just, you know, if I don't know what's out there, if I'm behind a blindfold, then I'd rather have Fable out there than pretty much anything else, I guess. So it's gonna take a little bit of damage, and he's gonna go back into Klefki. Now the last couple times we've had this, he's gone from Klefki into Eelektross again, almost as if he had the option, he wouldn't want to Volt Switch. He would have, like, Volt stay in, I guess. But he starts to set up spikes. So I Moonblast there, expecting him to go back into Eelektross because I want to get some damage out. I saw him already that I'm outspeeding it. So, you know, I'm hoping Moonblast's going to be able to do some decent damage to it. But if I'm going to have to 1v1 Klefki, then I'd rather go ahead and get a little bit of special attack raise off Charge Beam. So that's what we're going to click here. And even though it would actually be weaker than Moonblast because of base power differences. So we're going to Charge Beam, and we are not going to get the boost. But here I think is possibly maybe where the crit comes into play as we Moonblast, and I don't know. I think that might have been a 2-hit KO from there, even without the slight addition of the crit Flash Cannon damage. So because of knowing the outspeed, I knew 2 Moonblasts would take it out. Would have been nice to just Moonblast right off the hop and predict the switch in, and just, you know, keep going for that against Klefki. Plus, that would keep a move unrevealed. But I did not want to take the risk of getting, you know, 3 layers of spike set up. So I was not really surprised he went ahead and sacked it off there to a second Moonblast, but it certainly would have been spooky if he went into Pyroar, which resists Moonblast, and at this point with Clefable being at -2. Can probably one-shot almost anything on the team, except for my 1 Pyroar check, which I can't switch in because it's the check, not a counter. So that means someone's gonna go under the bus, and I think the best candidate is going to be Sableye. I could kind of try to also counter it with Mega Gallade, who might be able to live a Fire Blast. It's obviously going to be Specs. There's no reason it wouldn't be Specs. But Sableye's going to be the guy to go under the bus here. It's also going to be able to confirm that it's Specs, not that it wouldn't be. But yeah, that's definitely at least Life Orb damage, and we see no Life Orb recoil, so definitely Specs. Without Dragonite or any of the other guys that we need Prankster Wisp for, that's, you know, Sableye's utility is definitely not as needed as it could have been. So Mega Gallade is kind of sort of tempting to switch into here because I'm realizing it's going to be pretty tough to actually get the Mega off. But I think, especially if he's modest, and he with the spikes damage, it's still a decent chance, even with Gallade's good special bulk, to KO. Of course, I'd be able to fire back a Drain Punch as I get Mega'd up. You know, of course, I'd be slower this turn. But instead, we're going to go into Wave Man here, and if he wants to trade Pyroar for a good chunk of damage on Empoleon, I'm a-okay with that. I'm clicking Scald regardless. We can come back into Stealth Rock, and Scald is just generally going to be good against everything he's got left. So we'll see what he wants to do. If he wants to make that trade, I don't necessarily expect him to, because this thing is a tier 5 thing here, is the biggest threat to my team. But I also knew it was going to be, and kind of surprisingly, he does want to make that trade. It doesn't crit, which probably would have killed me, but it also doesn't miss. So, you know, at least we get the expected outcome of the trade there. So, but I feel like that trade was definitely in my favor. Even though he is going to be able to pick up the KO here, I feel like Empoleon definitely did its job. It got up rocks. He might still defog him, but, you know, it got up rocks, and it took out probably the biggest, scariest offensive thing on his team, because at least Raptor does outspeed this. We're not living in EQ, even with Krookodile at 57 life. Thought about going into Raptor, but I was low enough and not being physically defensive that I was pretty sure even knockoff was going to KO, and I could not risk Raptor getting knocked off and losing the majority of its life and also a good chunk of its power. So finally Raptor gets to make an appearance and gets to nuke somebody, which is going to be Klefki, and Brave Bird does a lot of damage, but it could have done a little bit more, so that leads me to believe it's probably going to be rather physically defensive based on calcs. So I look at my team now and I realize I only have 3 guys left. Oh, when did this happen? So because of the 4th move, you've seen the other 3 on Clefable, I could stay in and eat a T-Wave and just go ahead and kill this thing off with a Brave Bird, but I have a 25% chance of not doing that, and that would just be the worst. So Prankster T-Wave is obviously incoming, and it's just going to be best to go into Fable and eat the T-Wave, I think. I don't want to let Gallade get T-Wave. It's going to be incredibly tough at this point to get the Mega up. Don't even know if we're going to be able to, but we shall see. So Fable gets paralyzed, and the first order of business, I think, is getting some hit points back because I'm a little below where I want to be. Yeah, I know I'm pretty greedy, huh? Fortunately, as aforementioned, we only have 8 uses of heal, but we can certainly try to use them all. So we don't get paralyzed in that turn, so we're back up to full as a Mew comes in. This could do literally anything, and we'll see what it wants to do. It can defog and then do other stuff. Just wants the Psyshock, and surprisingly doesn't do a whole lot as we Charge Beam, and we do get the special attack drop this time, 70%, or the special attack raise. I totally flipped that, though I guess it would have been equivalent in this case. So we get fully paralyzed there, and starting to get down pretty low. We definitely need to get a heal up momentarily, and Psyshock comes again. That hurt a lot, but Fable was able to live it on 4 HP. But we still need another consecutive heal, and it's getting about time for another full para, but not this turn. So we are back well in the green now, and we're back in a livable range of hit points, so sweet. Yeah, Psyshock is not hurting too much, leads me to believe it's not a, at least not an overtly offensive Mew, and doesn't appear to be a setup Mew either, which I suppose, you know, would be able to, we're unaware, so Calm Mind offensively wouldn't matter, and we have Charge Beam to set up and cancel out the special defense boosts. But once again, we don't get fully paralyzed, so this thing's starting to get worn down. We did hit it with a Moonblast, and here I'm expecting I'm going to get fully paralyzed here. It doesn't matter what I click, but we get back up to full HP. So cool. Galaxy Man is doing quite well for himself right here, and we're going to click Moonblast again and still not get fully paralyzed, and I also didn't expect that to kill. So that had to be like a low roll into a high roll, at least just eyeballing it right here. But this thing comes in, and I have a super effective stab to this, and I'm quite certain it can't kill me in one hit from where I'm at, unless maybe it's CB? But I feel like CB would maybe want to be Moxie. I don't know. We're gonna click Moonblast. Right now we're a little bit dumbfounded because you can see there's a yellow block over there with words on it, and it reads Yellow Magic. And Clefable, what that means is you're supposed to miss your turns every once in a while. But he wants to sub, is what he wants to do. And yeah, remember how I said we're supposed to miss turns every once in a while? So we're gonna eventually miss a turn and give him a free sub. So that's going to be the direction that this is going to be going. It's going to sub again, and Fable, what are you doing? You're supposed to miss a turn. That's the rules of Yellow Magic, Fable. Now, I know you have the Unaware ability, but clearly you're just unaware that you are not in 4th Gen, and that you do not have Magic Guard, which in 4th Gen, as I've said at least in 2 or 3 videos, protected from being fully paralyzed. Get fully paralyzed because you're supposed to. Fable, what are you doing? He's out of substitutes. You can get fully paralyzed now and let him kill you off. You can let Staraptor get the kill. It's okay. It's alright. He's gonna Earthquake. You're gonna flip. No, you're not. Well, huh. That's a thing that's just happened, and I'm kind of scratching my head dumbfounded. So, remember, guys, Pokemon is totally a skill-based game. Yeah. Fable's gonna go down to a Brave Bird, and that doesn't really give me any information because 87 HP is even a no attack. Crobat's gonna be able to finish that off with Brave Bird. So we are getting down into the end game here after Fable has done some, frankly, ridiculous string. No Black Sludge, so that me think he's CB, but if he is, then I think he might, because he could kill Raptor. If I go into, you know, I would need Quick Attack to finish him off anyway, and if I'm locking the Quick Attack while he still has a Klefki, then I'm still not going to win. So I kind of have to bank on him not being CB here, even though I didn't see Black Sludge, so that's going to be the number item, I assume. And we're just going to flip Brave Bird here, as I believe he needs to be Adamant Max Attack, with no, you know, assuming he's not an attack boosting item, to even have a remote chance to KO, and that's with Adamant. So if he's Jolly, then he doesn't have a chance to KO me at 138 HP left. So we're clicking Brave Bird, and we're going to see what he wants to do, which is going to be a U-turn, so he is definitely not Choice Banded. And obviously he only has one thing left, which is going to be Klefki, which is not going to be able to endure a Brave Bird from that range of HP. And Rock's damage chips a little bit, so I don't take quite as much recoil, but with that amount of recoil and the U-turn damage, now Brave Bird's going to be a KO. So we're definitely in like the final 1 or 2 turns right here. And I think what I'm going to do is learn from my game against Tup, and I'm going to go and sack Gallade here, because it's not going to be very useful against Crobat whatsoever. If I can sack it for the sake of A, changing moves, B, getting some more Brave Bird recoil, that would be great. But if he roosts, it would be awful. So what's he going to do as we send in Gallade? He is going to Brave Bird. So that means we're going to be able to pick up the win with a Quick Attack. But I guess at the same time, if he had roosted and I just went for Brave Bird, then I would have just killed him. So it was totally a 50-50 choice right there. And ended up to work out in our favor as we're going to pick up a 1-0 victory again. So that now makes 4 games in a row where our game has come down to the wire, been a nail-biter of a 1-0 or less, as was the case last week. So definitely had some tight ones, and this was no exception. If he had clicked Roost there at the end, I'm pretty sure he just wins on the switch to Gallade, as he can still one-shot from Gallade from full, and yeah, it wouldn't be enough Brave Bird recoil to put it back into Quick Attack range, I believe. So, but at the same time, if he clicks Roost, then I stay in Brave Bird, then yeah, it's a 2-0 in my favor instead of a 1-0. So at least it, you know, made it to where the differential was going to be 1-0 at best that way. So anyway, yeah, super close and good game, Sam, and I hope that horrible atrocities like our Pokemon of the game, which is going to come up momentarily, will not happen to him again, but it might, because that's the way this game is played, clearly. But yeah, our Pokemon of the game is, of course, Clefable, going with 3 KOs. Probably should have had just 1, but that was not enough to whet its appetite this week. I'm pretty sure that's more than it's had all season. And pretty much the first bullet point is the only one that I really needed to put on there. Yeah, you guys can in the comments count. Just off the top of my head, I'm gonna say I got full parried 1 time out of, I'm gonna say 12 is gonna be my guess. There were what, like 5 turns of Crook and probably at least 6 or 7 of Mew, I think. So yeah, possibly more than that. Pretty ridiculous. I guess an uninvested Mew Side Shock is not that stunning that it did not a whole lot. Mew is just like, theoretically, it is the best Pokemon in League format, but it just somehow, like, theoretically, Fable is amazing too, but like somehow neither of them ever seem to like be the true terrors that they should, on paper, that they theoretically should be. So I don't know what it is about that. But and then yeah, Klefki didn't have Flash Cannon. I think he told me he had HP Ice because Gliscor went on a terror last week, and that did not get brought this week for various reasons, because Virizion's got, you know, Leaf Blade, which is going to hit it pretty hard neutrally, dies a horrible death to Pyroar. Mew could outspeed and have Ice Beam. Kyurem, obvious, and Suicune. So too many things working against it this week. But you know, again, as we saw last week, if you under prep for Gliscor, Gliscor can also just beat you. So don't necessarily blame him at all for that. Moving on to next week, and since this is a Monday upload, I am going to go ahead and spoil some of the results from this week, so if you for some reason haven't watched the other videos yet, make sure to go ahead and do that and click off, and I'll see you guys later. But anyway, Top did win this week, defeated Miguel 1-0, and I believe after last week, which was a weird one that we ended up assigning a 2-0 to Chimpact, I believe, we were back even with Top in differential, and we're still even with Top in differential again, so we maintain being tied for first, although he's got the tiebreaker, of course, having actually won the head-to-head. So we are kind of sort of in the lead of the division, but technically it's Top and I'm in the wild card spot, but it is neck and neck and could change any given week. The nicest thing though is that we're now in a group of four teams who are 5-2 in the Johto Conference, which means we've got a 2-game cushion on the wildcard slot, because Geo lost again this week ever since rattled off 3 crazy big wins in the first 3 weeks, probably the best start of anyone's ever had, and then is now on a huge losing streak inexplicably, because this is Pokemon, again, it's a skill-based game, right? But next week we are playing Tom, San Jose Sharpedos, one of my favorite people to play. We are technically 1-2 against him, but I don't know. It feels like the impact of the Season 3 game, was long. Agron, announcing his debut in the league, will forever be felt in the halls of San Jose. And yeah, this should be an interesting one. Tom actually made a couple of trades, which I feel like kind of improved the matchup. I don't have to play against Mamoswine, so I'm utterly thrilled about that. Instead we got to play Melodic, so I feel a little bit more confident about that. But yeah, we will see. We got some ideas going. Being able to move to 6-2 would be pretty awesome, and I don't think anyone's gonna clinch this next week, but possibly the week after next we're gonna start to see some teams maybe not clinch, but I think we will start to see some teams get eliminated, like unfortunately Tom, who is still 1-6. So I'd like Fortune's turn around, just not next week. Later days.